So no better time than now to start talking about stuff that I think is kind of helpful to people. And so what I'm going to talk about today is the illusion of certainty that we can get stuck in, creating loops of the same and the same and the same and the same, and cycles of misery that we can get stuck in, or that people like to kind of pull us into. Because, to be honest, there's certain people that are unable to trust the world. They've been hammered and armed so much by the world that they just don't want to leave that loop of certainty. And we feel for them. We feel for these people, you know. And there's a place for them, and there's use for everybody. And so what I want to talk about is how certainty is an illusion, and how if you're stuck in certainty or searching for certainty, how that can be a problem for you, and being able to open your mind and open yourself up to some things that you might not expect, and be able to see that that's where all of the joy and all of the positivity in life it comes from. And yes, that is where some pain can come in, but regardless, if you don't allow that to happen, then you're always in pain. And you're always stuck in a perpetual cycle of pain. And you're causing pain to other people. So think about reality like this. Okay? This bubble here is fixed reality. All right? Fixed reality. We all have to live in fixed reality. We all have to have these things. You know, these are our banking systems, roads, laws, creates order. Okay? This is created through logic, reasoning. This is a masculine view of our world. Okay? We're required to deal with these things in order to get here. This could be looked at as God, kind of, you know, like these are the basic principles of life and how to live and take care of yourself and be alive and be human. Take care of yourself. Eat healthy foods. Eat, you know, don't walk in the road when there's cars on the freeway. Don't get, you know, like this is the basic, obvious survival, safety. Okay? And so there are massive worlds that are created to keep people in these survival and safety states where you have to go to the job you hate. You have to keep around the people that are just nagging you and creating problems in your life, because if you don't, then you're a bad person. Then you don't have empathy. But it's actually the opposite. It's actually the opposite. And so we get confused about that. We get stuck in these worlds because we're afraid. Because, well, if I don't go to the job I hate, then how am I going to pay for this life that I also hate? Or that I'm not 100% pleased with? And you're never going to find, you know, a world that's perfect. That doesn't exist. Perfect world doesn't exist. Let's just get that out of the way. Does not exist. But it doesn't mean that we're not going to try to create it, and we're not going to try to bring in ideal things, right? It's just, if you really think about how this is creating our societies, from before we had our societies and systems to make sure everything is safe and progressing in our world, you know, we built huts and we didn't have the same type of safety that we have now. So this is all created from imagination out here. And some things can be improved and some things can't. And this is how you'll start to be able to catch on and see that, you know, nobody's 100% right. Nobody's 100% right all the time. This is why we have different politicians and different people with different ideas to try to bring in new things to better fit everyone. Because within this order, survival, and safety, there's always people and problems slipping through the cracks, right? It's where people's pain gets unnoticed, or it's not able to be healed in the way that they would like, or whatever. This is where miscommunications happen between, you know, adults and their children, or, you know, husband and wife, or whatever. This is how this happens, because intention of this overly egoic and controlling survival safety sense that we have is always a good intention, right? It's always for the best of everybody. At least it appears that way, and you feel like it's that way, because it's going to keep the same thing happening. The same thing is going to happen. So I'm just trying to preserve, just trying to keep. And so when you're doing that, there's oftentimes a lot of unintentional pain that's caused on relationships, or on between children and parents. If a parent is so focused on making sure that they're able to bring in the resources to provide, to bring, you know, to keep the roof over the head, to keep everything, you know, which you have to do, there's times when you're not going to see that your child is in pain emotionally, or going through a problem, that you could maybe be a little bit more patient, a little bit more sensitive to their feelings of what's going on with them. And so we all get kind of caught up in some version of this back and forth, where people aren't quite able to be perfect, because that's not possible, because you have to have this safety. And so the fact that their intention is always to keep things safe, they're never going to be wrong. So there's people that are fixed 100% always in this. This is where you might think of the word narcissist. Etc., whatever. And the thing is, yeah, I mean, we can go on and on about that and argue about about how that works forever, and that's not even important. The point is that people that are stuck in their fear are never going to be able to see it unless they decide to step out of it. And so out here, when people slip through these cracks, This is how, alternate realities are created. Alternate realities. This is where perhaps you start to build your own family, where you start to connect with your own tribe of people, the people that you can connect with on your level, that you share the same level of thinking, the same compassion for everybody. All right? Because these people, they think that they're being compassionate for everybody, but it's just a big mirror, an internal mirror of self. It's to preserve themselves and to create the same. And so out here is where you could find your tribe of people. Where you share the same preferences. You don't agree on everything. You don't have to agree on all things to get along, right? In these systems, at times, if they feel threatened by your thinking, then you don't belong. You don't belong in these systems. These are religious systems, work systems, school systems. And the thing is like these are necessary to teach us to control our imagination so that we can learn to control it, but we don't have to allow ourselves to be controlled by these systems. We have to learn to control it ourselves, to bring these imagination, creative ideas into reality. And so slipping through the cracks, there's always going to be more people that you find that you can relate with. I mean, and there's some people that are stuck in here always. Unwilling to open their minds because it would threaten their safety, it would threaten it all. And the thing is, let them stay if that's what they would like, because they're necessary. These people are necessary. We can, they can use us to project all of their all of the things that they don't like about themselves onto people that can live authentically. Because they're unable to live authentically because they don't know who they are. They don't know who they are outside of this fixed reality. And that the vulnerability is too scary to come out of. But they have a value to bring to the world. And that's to help keep and create order. And so it makes me think of something that I would have probably heard from my father, but it's like, if you have a thorn in your foot, what should you do about it? You should probably remove the thorn. And this is the thorn. Okay? But if you pull the thorn out, you learn something and you feel better about it, right? So you feel so good that you're not in pain anymore. But you know that it could happen again, right? But it feels better to not have it out. And if you pull it out, does the thorn disappear? Is it gone forever? No. Somebody else could step on it. And somebody else could feel the pain. Maybe this isn't the best analogy to explain, but essentially the idea is that these toxic and difficult people, they can either run our lives or teach us a lesson. They can either help us to see what needs to be changed, or they can keep us stuck in their same loop of misery that they're in. Because the way they live is they have the thorn in their foot 24/7 all the time, and their thinking is the opposite. It's the thinking that I'll never remove this pain, because if I never get to feel any joy, if I never get to feel the pleasure of having this thorn out of my foot, then I'll never know what pain is. I'll never have to feel pain, because I'm always in pain. And so if I'm always in pain, then I'm always right, and I'm never wrong, and I never have to make any risks. I never have to take any risks, and here I am, and I'm in pain, and I'll never get anything else. And see, the thing is, out here, it hurts a lot too when we step on the thorn. The thorn hurts. But we know the positives of feeling emotions like love and joy and hope. They're the only reasons for being alive. This is where life is. And so when we try to deny ourselves the ability to be vulnerable and authentic, we keep ourselves hidden in pain over and over, repeating the same thing. But when we open up and we come out into our imagination and experience the world and connect with other people, then we might get hurt. And we don't want that. But if we don't try, then we're always going to be stuck with the same thorn. So that's a thing to think about. And realizing that certainty is a trap that will keep you in the same loop is the thing that you can use to free yourself when you start to come into situations where you want to try that new thing, introduce that new idea into your life. You might as well. But when people like this, I would tell them that they need to introduce something new into their world to try to find some joy. They need to try. And then at the first sign of negativity, they need to keep trying. But that's the problem, is that any sign of negativity is going to push them right back into their shell. So use this idea, use this way of thinking to realize that you can introduce uncertainty, and it's not bad. Risk-taking is not always bad. If you don't take risks, you're never going to see who you could be. You're never going to know anything outside of what's already happening. So realize that, connect with that, and realize that there's all these different parts of the world and parts of yourself that you can connect to.